Thank you very much. I'm quite happy to be here. I'm quite happy that Dieter asked me to be here, because I'm not this kind of data scientist or data big explainer, everything like that. But I'm very interested in everything that we can do by data. And when Dieter asked me, I said, of course, yes, I will do that. And afterwards, I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to tell the audience? Because it's not my specific function to get data laid out on VRT. So I decided to tell a story that I actually usually tell when people ask me what am I actually doing at VRT and why am I here for about 16 years now. So I will give you my data. I have a presentation on data which has no data in it at all. There's no single figure. Nothing at all. It's just the story that I want to tell you that I experienced at VRT, how we use data at this point, and what I think we can do of how we should tackle data at a public broadcaster. So first thing, a little quiz time. The guy there, anyone, any idea who it is? The name is written very, very small beneath. Okay. Kettele. Absolutely. And who's Kettele? Anyone? It's a statistician, actually. It's a guy who was born in Ghent. Ghent is a place where I went to university. And when we got statistics, we always went to the Kettele room. I never knew who Kettele was until in the third year, where they explain you that Kettele is actually the founder of the way we use social science at this moment, and we use data for social science. Until Kettele, we used to do social science by guys like Marx or Weber, who were just looking around them, making an observation, making a theory, and just going around with them. That was the guy who said, no, we can use statistics, actually, who was only used at that point for astronomy. We can use that to tackle social problems, and to tackle how we can make society better, but you can use data for that. That's the first time. Before that, we never did that. The second thing that this guy is very famous for, you will probably know. Nobody? He's the inventor of the body mass index, which you probably know. Should have 25. That's the one who invented it in 1790. That's what got me interested in data. I was very interested in history. But at a certain point, you have to make a choice what you're going to study. You study history or political and social science. I went into social science because it's only 16 hours a week, and history has 20 hours a week when you have to go to school. But the special thing about it is that social science helps you, based on data, to make your society better. How can you make a better society, and how can data be used in that? I think for a public broadcaster, it's very important that if we want to help society, being a public broadcaster, that we think very good and very broadly how we can use data to make our service actually better. It's something that we really need to do. I started at VRT as a researcher, actually at the research department here, which was a very happy place to be. One of the things we learned actually being here at VRT is that it has no use looking back if you're not looking forward. It has no use. We had a lot of data. I think we still have the best service and the best research department that we can have here at VRT, and that is because we're not just looking back. We're looking back to look forward, to see what's happening in the future, and to help our brands, to help our TV, to help our direction, make the better choices for VRT, for being a public broadcaster. So that's, I think, a second thing that we need to do. That's why we should be so into this data thing, because this will help us make better choices in the future. We don't have to go blindly, and it's not looking backwards, it's looking forward in everything that we do there. Next thing I did at VRT was I became channel manager of Catnet, which is the children brand here at VRT. And the interesting thing about being there is that Catnet, as being a children brand 4 years ago, still now, is a TV brand with kids being in a very digital context. And we had a few problems going on when we arrived there, which include how will we have a better service for our children. You get to meet the king, of course. And one thing, go back to that slide, there were two things. One thing was, if you want to reach out to the children audience, if you want to have, you want to be there in the children, you have to know that children have A 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, you put them on the same table and you have a fight within 5 minutes. They can't have the same choices. And we have a TV channel which just airs and broadcasts the same thing at the same time, at the same place to those children. So the big problem we had is how can we have a better service with segmenting into this different age, the difference between boys and girls is quite big too. How can we segmentate that? The second thing and the second problem that we faced at CatNet is what is your purpose as being a children's brand? The purpose of a children's brand is not having children watching for 2 hours or 3 hours to TV. I don't think that any parent or nobody would be happy if you say our single mission is having kids sitting in front of a TV and try to have them watch TV for 2 or 3 hours a day. So we have to look back at what is our mission. We want to help those kids grow up and make them as stronger individuals. And how do we do that? And the two things we did to solve this problem were both based on data. The first thing, this is CatNet Junior. It's an app. It's been downloaded now for, I think, and I'm looking at Doreen right now, for about 130,000 times. And she's nodding yes, so it's a good guess. It's the most popular app that you can have for children between the age of 1 to 6 years old. And what it does, what is interesting about it, it's a registration app. So you come into the app and we ask you friendly to register. Why? Because everything we do is based on your age and is based on your being male or female, based on your sex. So you have to have a registration. You can come in without a registration, but we see that most people do it because it's a better service. The app is working much better if you register for this than if you don't. And we see that most people do that, and we see that for children it's a great way to get our content because it's the same content we have on TV. We changed the way you can come into your content, and we saw that the kids are very happy to see their content coming up. Now, talking about filter bubbles and things like that, we started when we made this app. We thought about this, and we thought it's not the mission of a public broadcaster to give a kid, every time they want to see something, to give them the exact same thing. So we did two things. Is we don't actually give them the same thing, as 50% is programmed based on the data that's in the app, so it's based on the use data. 50% is based on what we put in there. So when Santa Claus is coming at a certain point, we will push it into there. When you have a new show, we will push it in. And we will try to, it's called serendipity, I think. We will try to get them into things that they didn't expect it, but they're quite happy to have those, and that's what making this brand good. The second thing we did is we prevented it to being just a viewing app. So these are the things that just fit videos. But we believed very strongly that we could do our mission better if we could do more than just have those kids watch content. So what we did is we put in some games and we put in some activate things. We tried to stimulate those kids to do more than just view things. And that's working quite good because you go into your personal flow. The second thing we did is for the older children. Our mission as a children brand is very strongly that we want to help kids in their lives growing up to strong adults at a certain point. And one question we had is how can we reach with the older children of 10, 11 years old? You know, there's some kind of puberty coming in from the age of 8 for most of those kids, so it's very hard for a children brand to come in. And the second thing we saw was that scripted is very popular among 10 and 11 years old. We combined those in the series De Vijver, where we just took a look at what is the most dramatic thing that happens in the life phase of a kid. And the most dramatic thing is becoming 12 years old. When you get 12 years old, you go to another school. The school is not close in your own village, it's mostly at a more distant place. And there's a lot of stress coming in there. So what we did is we went into the data of why do kids at the age of 13 or 14 call into the jongerenlijn. It's a jongerentelefoon. It's for the guys from the BBC, I will explain later. The jongerenlijn. And what is the data on what is happening most? What are they calling the most for as their problem? And then we made the 5 series just based on problem number 1, problem number 2, problem number 3. It's the best show we had for children in a long time. And it's been doing tremendously good on digital, better than on TV, because it's a personal thing. When you talk about problems, it's a personal thing. So you want your iPad to look at something that's personal to you. You don't want to be there in a room watching with your parents who might ask questions about being gay, because that was one of the issues that we took on that. So, to be short, I went into digital transformation for a year, which was interesting because there was a lot of people with that title. It's 2 years ago. And the interesting thing was that what happened, what I saw in 1 year doing that function, I think a lot of that we can refer to what we're doing now with data. And I think it might be very interesting to look at how did we deal with a transition we did at VRT, but at every company working around with digital, and now look at what we're going to do with data and how we're going to end up using data or getting our organization transformed. I can go into this for about a day, but I think 3 things really step out here about digital, which we can apply definitely to data. And the first thing is it's absolutely not what you can do, but the question is why you should do it. When it comes to digital, everything's possible. Think about something, you can do it. It's not about what. The what is the simplest thing. You can go to shows, you can buy every format, and you can just do it. The real question is why you should do it. And what's your mission and what is doing for your mission? That's the question you should ask. And if you have no proper answer to that question, then better think again. So it's not what. You couldn't put in a lot of effort in what, but the effort you should put in is why should we do this kind of thing. The second thing is erase the word digital. It will isolate you. It's a bit creepy. But we were trying to get a digital strategy, and every company is trying to get a digital strategy, and the first thing you actually should do is to skip the word digital out of that. You need a strategy. And you really need a place to have digital in there and see that it works. I think with data we will have the same thing. The next day we will have a data strategy, so I'm quite sure of that. But I really hope that we have a strategy that gets data in a real good place in there. And that's for a lot of things. Think about everything that you have with digital. Digital transformation, it's not digital transformation. Digital is there. It's a transformation of your organization. That's something else. So skip the word digital and do the same thing with data. Mm-hmm. And it's mainly, I saw I think it was the guy from the BBC and some other presentations, and the guys from BNN were telling the same thing. It's not a technical thing. That's the easy part. The difficult part is how will you get your organization and how will you get your people ready and organized to start working in the new way things are going, in the new ecosystem that we're in. And that's a very important thing. When we will, and that's for data, if we will isolate data and say this is now our data department, we'll put in 4 data scientists, and within 6 months we will come and see and what kind of cool things you have done. We will not help the organization at that point. So you will have to find a way how can we integrate digital, but data is the same thing, integrate in the process of working here at VRT. Now, I'm in strategy right now, and my son was with me when I was making this presentation. He said, you need a cool slide. So I got a cool slide. It's the only cool slide. He's still working over the fact that I'm not at CatNet any longer. When you have kids at the age of 8, and you come home, you say, I'm no longer at CatNet. It's like you tell them that Santa Claus doesn't have a white beard or something like that. So what's the important thing when doing strategy is setting a goal and facilitating the organization to reach that goal. That's what strategy is all about. So what I think here at VRT, as a public broadcasting, to set our goal, proximity is actually the way, is the mean that we will get to our goal of being an important player here in Flanders. And proximity, what's proximity to me is being very close to what happens here in Flanders and what's on people's minds. And I think and we use brands for that, we use people for that, we use a lot of things to create the proximity feeling. But what data does, what we've seen with the MyBBC case, that's been trying to have the best service, to be as close as possible as we can with the people that are actually paying taxes for us. And the concept I think you should keep in your mind is that we, as a public broadcaster, should be a compagnon de route. I have no English version of that. I think it's an English word actually, so, but it is a compagnon de route. Compagnon de route is not somebody who's guiding you. It's not someone who's taking your hand and taking you through the field saying, you need to do that, you need to do that. A compagnon de route is someone you trust. It's someone you can walk with, you can trust, you can talk, you can share your feelings, you can say, I'm not sure about what's happening now. And the other one can say, we're not that sure even, but we can try to make it out. We can try to figure out what's happening. That's what people are expecting from a public broadcaster. They expect us to be trustworthy, and they expect us to understand what's on their mind, to understand what they are doing, and that we go with them in their way to exploring what they can do. They are not expecting us with the finger to say, now you do that, and now you do that. They expect us to have a conversation, to be a company on the route, on the way of growing older. That's for kids, that's for young guys. This is just saying this is what we do during M&M is doing during the time when students all have to do their exams. We want to be their compagnon in the difficult period there. We want to help them studying. We want to give them tips. That's being a compagnon on the route. That's not saying now you have to study. No, it's saying I understand that studying is a very hard part of life. We go on together on this and we have a better outcome. And that's what people expect from us. Knowing your public is the key in trust. If you want to trust somebody, I think you really want to know who's on the other side. You cannot trust anyone who you don't know what his intentions are, or you don't know what he's up to with the time you're spending with him. That's media time. So we have to know our public, to be very aware of what's on their minds and what's going on right now. And we have to know how we can help them in that. And that's knowing your public. And if data can help us with one thing, is that we've done great service in the past. We've done great research on knowing our public. We're doing this for 25 years. But we can use data at this time to make it a lot better. And people will feel it. And people will trust us more at that point. So, to round it up, they gave me first 15 then 20 minutes. So I'm not sure on what side of the gap I am. Data has the potential to fundamentally change the way we use media. I don't think I'm throwing up a door that was very, very close. I think it has the potential. I'm not sure in what way, actually. I don't think we can tell, but it has absolutely the potential. And why is that? Because what we see right now is that the expectations of our media user the bar is growing every day. So every day we're working at VRT right now at a very cool VRT video player. It's called VRT Nu. And we saw within the interviews we did, the user sessions, that the expectations were actually growing during the 6 months that we were working on that. So that is what's going to change the way we have to look at media. And the other thing is that it probably might change the business model. I was hearing Samir here saying that he gets about 50 euros a month on his YouTube advertisement. That's not the business model that is going to work. And he was telling what his business model is working and his collaboration with other companies who will use his connection to get films done. So a changing business model, that can absolutely be something that will change the way we use media. Because that's, I think, an important thing. You're only as strong as the ecosystem that you're in. When data will probably change the way the ecosystem works, and that will have an impact on the way that we are working. So it's quite important to not only look at what can we do, we should look at why we do it, and we should definitely look at what is the ecosystem that we are in as a company. Second thing is the data has the potential to evoke innovative ways of creating media. There are two things about what we do. We connect people and we create media. The first thing, what we're talking about, that's connecting people and changing business model, ecosystem. This is probably the way that there will be another way of what we create. You have the example always that on Netflix and House of Cards was made based on the big data. I can assure you that some of the things that were done on House of Cards, it could have been done with an Excel sheet. What is the best actor, most expensive? You have no budget, you have a very big budget. What is the one you can choose? I think for classic media, the impact might be not that big, but it will be the driving force, and that's what we at VRT need to think about. What are the new formats that will use data to have a better connection and have creation and connection in the same format. That's an important thing. And the third thing, I think for a public broadcaster, data, and I have given some examples on that, data has the potential to strengthen our service. We should embrace the things that are possible with data and have a very close look. How is this going to help us to get a better and stronger tie with our public? And that is by getting to know your user, surprise users. Data should help you. People are not coming to a public broadcaster to get what they know every day at the same time. They adore the fact that suddenly they get a TV series, or they get an intervention on the radio, or they get a digital format that they were not expecting. And that's important, that you use data to surprise users and not to give them the same thing they had all the time. Surprise them and have a better adjusted connection. People will blame us if we're not able to get our connection on the right way. That we will use the same classic TV medium to give you a news appointment. They will blame us for that. They want a better connection because they trust us that we will do that. So just concluding, I think there are two things very important when working on data on the next month and the next year. Is the big book of why. As the question of why are we doing this? Why should the public broadcaster? Why is this helping us? What is this doing for our brand? And the second thing, don't let it be the most remotest island on VRT. It should and it must be integrated in the way we process our goals as VRT, the way we want to attain our goals. So that's, I think, the two most important things I want to give you on data in, I think, 15 minutes. That's my story.